What's going on, guys? It's about 12:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Just figured I'd fire up another screencast here, showcasing the DynoBars and some of the automation I was working on just to help automate the entries when you see a potential entry you want to take. That is executing your sell or buy position for you automatically, your stop loss position, and the break-even position if you're trading an even number of lots, and of course the take profit position. So I'm going to show you guys how some of this works once we get some kind of signal. We might get a sell signal here, we'll see. Looks like a sell bar might form, we'll see. But overall it looks pretty slow today, to be honest. I think this time of the year is usually pretty slow anyways. Couple good days already this week, so not complaining. You're probably wondering what the teal and purple lines are, perhaps. Well, if you know DynoBars, you can probably already see what I'm doing. Same thing Mark does. He likes to draw the squares, the actual boxes, it looks like. I prefer just to draw some horizontal and vertical lines. So I'll just get a few of them already in play on the chart. Here we go. Nice movement down. So I'll just keep, at the high and the low. So let's say this current red bar was our low. I just lock it in like that and move the one over here, the vertical line, to represent where we're looking at on the T-bars, the current position. So from there, I'd want to look for, retracements back into the zone. I like to have this teal bar, purple line, sorry, because I like to be somewhat conservative with my entries, and I like to just kind of have some kind of visual reference of where this is retracing into, such as a halfway point. That's just me. Everybody has their own thing. It's just what I like to do. The way this works, you have a few parameters. You can set your stop loss, your maximum stop loss, where if you were ever over, let's say, 10 points of where that prior pivot would be, and anybody that knows DynoBars and the T-bars knows what I'm talking about. If it was over 10 points, it wouldn't execute the trade. Position size essentially is 2, which right now I've only kind of developed this around the NQ. I'll need to scale this up so I can denote whether I want to be possibly doing Forex currency, lot sizes and stuff, but it's kind of been wrapped around trading the NQ. So position size is just 2 contracts right now essentially, and the target profit would be 25 points. So all that's going to be automated. And the trend line color is magenta, meaning if I draw a magenta color line, let's say a trend line here down, and it breaks my trend line, it's going to enter. It would enter my trade, place the stop loss, take profit, break even, which we'll see if we get an entry, possible entry, or at least something I can draw a trend line to show you how it's working. But as soon as you draw the trend line, it will start drawing a stop loss line for you, and I can at least show you that. So let's make sure the strategy is enabled. True, that's good. So it still needs some cleanup, but because if you drew a line through the middle of price, it gets kind of funky, and it sometimes executes an order. So you kind of want to be careful not to draw a line through the price when you first draw the line. So you can see how it's denoting the most current pivot point, which now we just went up again and that's now the current pivot point. So if price kept going up, broke our trend line, that's where our stop loss will be placed, at that pivot point there. And once it's placed, we can drag this red line up and down to denote where we want the stop to be. So if we're up in profit, we can just take this and visually drag it. So it's a much cleaner way to do that. And I put a little tiny menu that'll come up here. You'll see if we get a potential entry, that once you have a trade executed, it will display some metrics for you so you can see what's going on with your trade. Okay, there's a sell entry. Let's see what we can get. I kind of zoom out a little bit just to help see the well-defined pivots. You start getting too ingrained, you get lost in all the little choppy pivots, in my opinion. I should definitely retrace them good. So I'm happy with this retracement. If I now see some defined pivots down in here, I'm going to connect the trend line and we'll go for it. I'm going to get my trend line ready. So one thing you have to understand about this too, and I haven't found a way around this, but even when you haven't drawn the trend line, price, if it goes through the price right now as I'm holding it in here, the price goes through the trend line as I'm holding it wherever on the screen, it will execute the trade. So I'm just going to keep this down and about. And it's all about the angle of the trend line. It's smart enough to know if you drew a trend line this way from left to right, you're looking to sell. So if we get a pivot here, I'll connect the trend line. We already made two prior pivots, little ones, but this would, in my opinion, be a nice defined pivot right here. If it starts moving back up, I would connect the trend line and we'll take a stab at it and see what happens. So you want to be careful too. Price could just spike right down and go through your trend line. So it's still a work in progress here. So for me, I'm very happy with this. I like how it retraced up. This is almost like a textbook, in my opinion, for me. 50%. It's coming back down. If it makes a pivot here, that would be beautiful. No, I don't like that yet. I need a defined pivot. Okay, I'm going to connect this guy. I'm going to give a little buffer. It's right in there. And let's go with it, see what happens. I say a little buffer because I don't have it completely up next to the pivots there. And that way price would essentially, when it hits it, because it's set, I think right now I have it set for the close. But I really want to add a feature where I can put some padding in the parameters and the menu options. for however many ticks or a point, so you get a significant, maybe for 2 ticks or 3 ticks, whatever, below, and then execute. That way it's really broken the line. A decent break. So we'll go with this, see what happens. So this is how it works. As soon as it crosses the magenta line, it's going to execute a trade. And our red line will be where the stop loss is automatically set. Now in this case, I'm probably going to move this up just a skosh. I don't know, we'll see. I'm not going to touch it for the video. We'll just leave it here for you guys. Precisely why I give it some padding. We might have executed, it's hard to tell. We might have executed if I had it flush up there, and then we would have just been stopped out. So I'm going to readjust on this pivot here, give it a little padding. So for me, I can zoom this thing out and I can see these are well-defined pivots. I like this. I don't like being all up in here trying to connect pivots, these pivots and stuff, maybe that pivot or that pivot. I like well-defined pivots, and my definition of a well-defined pivot is something I can see if I'm scaled all the way out. You can clearly see these are nice pivots. Again, as Mark says, it's all subjective. Everyone has their own style. This is my style.
Order filled.
Okay, here we go. So we're in a trade. It just executed for us. You can see the position quantity is 2. Stop loss is in. This is the break-even point. We got filled right down here. So if price comes down here to the blue line, it's going to close half the position for us. Points at risk, we've risked 3.25 points on this trade. So that's how much we stand to lose, is 3.25 points. And it shows your ticks at risk too. How many points we're at from break even, ticks from break even, points from take profit, which I'll scale the profit, scale out in a second. I'll show you that. Just want to see what's going to happen here. And the plus and minus points is how many points we're up. So essentially we're up a point, 4 ticks, right? It has the break-even price, which is where the blue line is. Stop loss price, which is where this is. Take profit price, which is further down. If I adjust these, you'll see these prices move. I'll show that to you in a second. Let's see what happens here. So if she immediately spikes back up to the stop, I'll take another stab at this and connect that pivot point. 100%. That's what I would do. But the beauty of this is, guys, and you can see how slow it is right now. It's easy to get everything plugged in, but when you're trading at 9:30 in the morning, as soon as price starts rolling, it's almost impossible to get everything done that you need to do. Get your stop loss in, get your take profit in, and if you're trading with an even number of lots, like you've heard Mark talk about in his videos and why, you should do that, in my opinion, as well. You got to get that price in too and calculate where that is for you, right? Yeah, so that's kind of why I just went down this route, to put something together, quickly automate these entries. I think coupling this with the DynoBars is huge. Make life a lot easier.
Order filled.
Okay, so essentially we've now broken even on the trade. We've closed out half our position. So price comes back up against us, plus or minus a tick or two based on the fills. But roughly a break-even trade, $20 plus or minus probably. So now you can see we're down to one quantity, one contract we're trading. And you also notice the points in break-even, that just defaults to 0 now because we're not really tracking that. So if we scale up here or scale out more, might be kind of hard to see. I don't know for you guys. I need to think about changing the color for this or make them thicker. This green line down here where my crosshair is where the take profit is. So if you look here up in the menu, ticks from take profit 90, points from take profit 22.88 right now. Obviously as price moves further away, that's going to increase, gets closer, decrease. You'll see a decrease now if I move this up. So I've just moved it closer, now we're only 13 points away. And if it comes down here now and hits that, that'll close out the rest of our position. Can move it back down 25 points away. Can really scale in, scale out 40 points away, right? And I'm just going to leave it down here for now. We'll just move it back a little bit closer. So what I like to do, if as price gets closer, right, and it looks like it's going to keep moving, I'll just manually start closing my stop in. So I can adjust this stop as well, which I'm not going to do right now. I'm going to leave it as it is for a second. I can start closing this in, and I can draw the, pull this down and essentially pull this down as well and really start kind of granularly, trailing the position to milk as much as I can out of it. Visually, very easily and visually, right? You don't need to keep updating numbers in the NinjaTrader GUI. You just drag your lines. So we're plus 5 points right now. Plus 6 points. I think this is the other thing. It's key. You can literally just see right away how many points you're up very easily. 25 ticks, 6 points. Usually when I get to about 10 points or so, I'll move my stop down. I still like it to have room to breathe. I'll move my stop down at least another point. So we're still broken even, but I like to just lock in, reduce it by another point or so to kind of cover commission. And I have my stuff set up with NinjaTrader, and I still need to get in there to see what they are really charging me, because they advertise 0.80 cents, 0.80 or something, 0.75, I forget what it is per contract. It might even be more than that, I don't know. But it was a minimal amount. But all these other fees they're charging you, it seems. I'd like to just kind of close in one more point just to kind of make sure I'm covering something. And it just kind of helps me on my fills, because I could be plus or minus a couple ticks or something here and there on the fills as well. And I can't control that. So that's why I kind of just hone in another point or something off the current stop loss. So plus 8 points right now. Okay, so I'm going to just drag this down. You'll see the points at risk, because we're still negative 3.25 on the points at risk. You'll see when I drag this down, that'll decrease. That's good enough. So I know I'm going to just, not really lose anything on the commission side. Again, that's just me. So negative 2 points now. So we've already closed half the position. What was it, like a 3 point something? So $60 on one lot, one contract, 3 points, 246. So essentially we're locking in like $20, really. Because if we go up, we're now going to get stopped out at $40, essentially. We close in $60. $20 should be locked in, roughly, something like that. Again, it's very subjective, I think, on how to manage your stop losses. I think that's the hard part. Again, it's one of those things, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I've seen it both ways. Some of you guys might like to just leave your stop where it is, period. Break even, and just let the trade run. You get your 25, 30 points, whatever it is you're shooting for. You know, some of you might not like to trail down the stop. I like to typically, if I see, you know, upwards of 15 points or so, I'll probably look at moving this down to 0 at my entry position to stop. And maybe even lock in a few 3 to 5 points. But again, I've seen that, you know, price comes back up a little bit. Doesn't get to where your original stop was, but comes back up to where you might have locked in 5 points. Takes you out and then comes right back down. It's just the nature of the beast, right? It is what it is. Got to deal with it. That happened to me yesterday or 2 days ago. There was a nice move to the upside. Actually, coupled. Well, it's depending on how you had your speed settings, it could have been one long move for you. My speed settings are 5, so I saw 2 nice long moves. There was one long move, a little bit of chop coming back down, and then a nice long continuation again. I was in the setup in the morning to get in, and I was, you know, moving my stop to tighten it up a little bit. I was up 15 points, 18 points or so, and I moved my stop. Probably it was like +3 or +5 points to lock that in, and price came right back up to that area. I think it was actually +5. Came back up to that area, or it might have even been +10. I think I locked in 10 points. I think I saw I was up 20 points. I locked in 10 points, and price came back to that area, stopped me out, and continued right on up for, like, you know, I think it was like 80 points, 70 points, 80 points. Huge move. So that's, you know, it's hard to watch. It's very depressing, but it is what it is. That's trading, guys, right? Got to deal with it. I think that's the hardest part of this whole thing. This trade right now could come right back up and stop me out. We're 11 points in, and we could just come right back up and, you know, capture only 1 point. It is what it is. But you got to keep doing it. It's all about repetition, and over time, you're going to grow your account if you keep doing the right things, I think. The emotional aspect is the hardest part to master. So we're up 14 points. I think it just hit 15, 14. You guys are probably noting this is on a sim account. Absolutely. I do have a live account in place. However, I am trying to make sure I don't have any further bugs in this automation I've done here before I go live again. I was going live with the DynoBars and using my automation. However, I had some issues. Well, some big issues I had to work out. I was getting into positions I didn't want to get in. Price was executing when I wasn't expecting it to execute, so I had to clean up some stuff. Needless to say, that's why we're on the sim account right now. So my personal minimums, I think, for me, the goal, I just fired up a $1,500 sim account, and we're going to take that to $10,000. High risk. I wouldn't tell anybody to do that on a live account, with futures at least, because you can't really control risk as easy as you can in Forex, right? You can control down to the dollar amount of how much you want to risk on your stop loss, based on your stop loss. You have whole number contracts, 20 bucks a point minimum, right? So you'd want to make sure you have money in there to cover your positions and the percentage of account balance you're risking, if you will, right? Example, so let's say you're doing one contract and you end up in a trade that has well, let's just say, you had a $1,000 account, right? And let's say you have a trade that is going to be a 5-point risk. So at one contract, that's essentially $100, right? $20 a point. So 5 points on a stop loss, which is, pretty average, 3, 5, upwards. I've seen 7 or 8, but I think most of the time I'm seeing anywhere from 3 to 5 points that are always being risked on these pivots I'm catching. But anyways, so 5-point stop loss, $20 a point, that's $100, and you only have $1,000 in your account. Well, that's 10% of your account balance right away. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. Forex is a different story, right? Because you can granularly control the lot size to affect the per pip amount for your stop loss, right? Doesn't matter. You can do any stop loss you want, but you adjust your lot size accordingly, so it might only be 3 to 5% max of your account balance at any given time. So yeah, futures, awesome, definitely good leverage. I think you can make a heck of a lot of money in futures. But I wouldn't recommend anybody starting with a small account. So for me, as an experiment, I'm just trying to see what I can do with a small account, being patient, conservative, and also at the same time testing my automation here to make sure I don't have any issues. So I'm trying to, if I can take 1,500 and turn it into 10,000, I'll consider that successful. And I'm gonna go live again, so you guys will be able to catch those videos too. But right now, since, well, it's not the accurate amount. Today we were around 4,700. Started with $1,500 back the middle of November, the 12th of November, and we're essentially, as of the start of today, we're up to 4,700. I guess I should say for me, I do like to see, I think I've already might have noted that, I do like to see it a 25-point minimum. That's what I like to shoot for. Some of you guys might be higher or lower, maybe you like 20 points, maybe you like 30 points. For me, I'll take 25 points. Even if I could take 25 points, a week, that's good. I mean, we're already, this week, we're already, probably around 50, 60 points this week. That's good enough for me. Geez, even if you guys, capture 20 points a week, you're going to grow an account pretty quick. So here's an example of kind of what happened yesterday. So what do we see? About 15 points positive so far on this trade. Our entry price was $8.99. Not much room there. If you try to move this in to lock in positive points, you most likely, anywhere from 3 to 5, whatever you wanted to do. It's all subjective, right? So, you're up 15 points. You want to move in, lock in 3 to 5 or something. Still think you're going to give room to breathe. Then she comes up and boom, takes you out, and she might come back down. She might continue up and stop us out here. That's very well possible. But I prefer, until I see upwards of 15 to 20 points, I'll consider locking in like 5 points. I just like to give her room to breathe, because sometimes she wants to retrace up and then come right on back down. It happens quite often. So, and you got to be okay with that, right? You got to be okay seeing your positive, 15 points, upwards of 20 points. And if again, it's definitely a give back. It's all your style, what you want to do. You want to lock in 5, that's fine. You're not, you're banking points, right? That's all that counts. I'm going to make 10, 20 bucks on this trade. I have 0 risk. We're just going to let it run and see what happens. On to the next one if we get stopped out. No big deal. You might have a few of those in a row, right? You get up 15 points, 18, close to 20, whatever it is you're looking for. You don't tighten in the stop. You're just breaking even. Price comes back up, stops you out. You're thinking, man, what if I just locked in 10 points each one of those trades? I would have been up 30 points already. It's, you know, one of those things you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because in the next trade you've got your 25, 30 points or more, right? So it's all, it's just too, yeah, you got to do what you're comfortable with. There's no, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it, because at the end of the day, if you're making points, you made, you know, let's say we tighten up our stop to 3 to 5 points, price comes up and stops us, which right now we're only up 3 points. So if we did a 3-point positive, we would have been stopped out. So you're still banking points, right? You're not, your account balance isn't dwindling down. That's what matters. So for me, I like to see something within 5 bars, but depending on how far out it is, if it's at the 5th bar, I definitely like to see some kind of decent retracement and very well defined pivots, I should say. Because if it's at the 5th bar and it's retracing upwards of half or more, and I don't have well defined pivots, I'm not going to draw a line, because that could just be chop and it's going to continue on. Again, it's all subjective, really. Everyone gets in their own groove, what they like, right? That's what it's about. You gotta understand, I think the key thing is understanding how the DynoBars prints, and for the type of instrument you like to trade, to kind of get the feel of the market, if you will.
Order filled.
All right, stopped out. Get rid of our line. So plus or minus 10, right? So we're minus $10. Yeah, it's 47.20 is when we started today. So probably needed to move my stop a skosh in. So let's see what happens. Let's see how far she wants to retrace.
Order filled. Order filled.
Sorry, I was kind of sterile there for a minute, but I connected this pivot, saw a nice pivot here, come right down, comes back up, but obviously it broke through and then just continued on. So I'm not gonna, she really spiked to the upside. I'm not gonna worry about trying to connect anything up here. And let her be. Some of you guys might be looking at this pivot right here, but I'm going to be conservative now on this one because she's 5 bars in and really pushing upwards. There we go. Let's get rid of this guy. See what happens moving back to the upside. Hey guys, back at you here. Sorry about the lapse in time. I had a phone call come in. Was stuck on there for a little bit. I did have some other entries I took that one of them, I believe, a couple of them I think stopped me out. One of them got to break even. And I shouldn't have probably taken the ones I did. Just kind of talking on the phone and trying to do this at the same time was not a good idea. So let's see where we left off. We had our long bar come in. Price did come back and retrace a bit. I did try to take some entries, I believe right around this area. Yeah, I think I drew a trend line on this pivot right there. And I think, yeah, my stop was down here. We got stopped out on that one. Actually, let me see. Data series, markers only, apply. Maybe okay, it was over here. I thought for sure I took a trade. Maybe it's not showing the markers for some reason. I was almost positive I had a trade over here. Yeah, distractions. Never get distracted while you're trading. So I definitely took a position over here. I believe I was trying to connect this pivot and that higher high right there. Ultimately got a, choppy right in there. You can see took us out down here. I drew another pivot here. I connected, well, you can see what I connected. I didn't go from this one to here. I went from this one to be a little more conservative with the angle of the trend line. So just coming off this, referencing this pivot here to draw our line against. But again, kind of breaking my rules, not really seeing too much retracement compared to this bar. I mean, almost halfway, but not quite, right? I like to be halfway. But again, if I could see a defined pivot, which I did here, I would take it. But I really like to see something halfway in. So anyways, we use this pivot here. We're in the trade. You can see it's just really moving along very slowly. Finally coming up a little bit, and it's come back down pretty close to the stop. Hasn't stopped us out. We broke even on this one. And I think if we just go back here a little bit more, and maybe it only references some. It was almost positive we had a trade. I tried to take this pivot here, and we did get stopped out. Bottom line, we're down a little bit. I went a little aggressive now. I bumped my contract size up just because as this looked a little more conservative as we got closer to the halfway point. And we'll just see what happens. So right now, yeah, we're in this trade. We're up 13 points. And we'll just ride this out and see what happens. So take profit, 25 points is up here at the green line. If she keeps pushing up here, I'm going to probably extend the green line and really try and trail her in, milk as much as we can if she wants to continue. It is 3:14 p.m. We need to be out of all trades by 4:45 Eastern time for the, I guess, the margin, intraday margin requirement things. Otherwise, you get fees that hit your account. And again, where I drew this trend line, whether I decided to draw it from this pivot to this pivot or this pivot to this pivot, it's subjective, however you want to draw it. It's accomplishing the same thing. And the reason I chose this pivot here, you just see how this is kind of choppy in here. I saw price move down more definitively here, which in my opinion made this more of a defined pivot. It really shot up, price moved down distinctly here, and that's why I picked that pivot as opposed to anything else, or like even this one right here. Okay, we're up 20 points right now. Let's move this up. I'm gonna it's 5 points right there. I'll just move it right here, that little pivot. We'll lock in 4 points. Again, subjective, guys. She could come back down, hit us, and move up even further, just like how this almost came down, stopped us out, and finally continued on. Because I bumped my contract size up to 4 contracts, you need 500 per contract. Again, very aggressive. I would not recommend anybody doing this on a live account for sure, for that matter. But it's house money, frankly, at this point. Just trying to recover losses. So, you know, we're up 840 right now on this trade, 20 points. I could close this right now, and we'd probably be back between the trades that I got stopped out on, plus or minus on the break-evens. Might be a little over break-even today, so I'm in profit. So, and that's what I get for not being patient, really taking trades. I got a little distracted there on the phone. I shouldn't have. Probably should have walked away. Interesting to see if price continues past that recent high, it looks like over here. We're at 24 points, 25 points. I'm going to lock in 20 points here. There's no reason not to. I'm going to try and milk this for what we can. It's too much of a give back in my opinion. So if we get knocked out now for 20, we get knocked out for 20 points. That's okay. Well, you see how quickly that was to do that. I can just drag this up and see points at risk 20.09. It's not really labeled correctly. It's kind of more of like when you were initially placing your stop. These are the points at risk. You're not risking 20 points now. That just kind of reflects how we just moved the stop loss line. I would suspect that based on what the DynoBars are showing, the history here, if she's going to continue, she's going to probably continue for a little bit, I think. The key thing is she's going to get past this level here. 28 points. There she goes. Wow, little spike there. 30 points. I almost locked in 25, but I decided to just keep her at 22, or yeah, I had it at 22 before, roughly around 22 23. Leave it at that little pivot there, right? Give it some room. We'll see what happens. If she goes up, she goes up. Looks like she's going to get stopped.
Order filled.
There we go. So 23 points is what we had locked in, 23 points. So you can see we're still at 21, 20 points. Let's see what the, yeah, she's coming back down. I don't think she's getting past this area. At least not yet. Could sit here and wait for a another entry to print, but I think I'm going to shut her down for today. I got to get some food. Haven't eaten anything yet, so I'll try and get this up hopefully sooner than later on YouTube. You guys can check it out. Let me know your thoughts. Give me your opinions, feedbacks. Let me know if you guys like this, and next week hopefully keep cranking them out for you guys. Get started around 8:30 to 9, and we'll go from there. Cool. Have a good day, guys. See you later. Bye.